Hey everyone, Mrs. Lotz here to read you Scholastic News. My Grandpa Changed America. Find out how the granddaughter of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is following in his footsteps. Keeping the dream alive. Yolanda Renee King is busy. The fifth grader studies hard, plays soccer, and takes violin lessons. She also speaks out about issues that are important to her, just as her grandfather did. Yolanda's grandfather was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King was an important American leader. In the 1950s and 1960s, he led an effort to gain equal rights for African Americans. Back then, unjust laws segregated black people from white people in many places. Black people couldn't go to the same schools, theaters, hospitals, or other places as white people. Some states had laws that made it hard for black people to vote. Dr. King led peaceful protests and gave inspiring speeches to demand equality. His leadership helped bring about great change. Dr. King was killed in 1968, long before Yolanda was born. Scholastic News spoke to Yolanda at her home in Georgia about her grandfather and her work for social change. What do you think made your grandfather great? Yolanda says, back in the 1950s and 60s, there were a lot of things that African Americans weren't allowed to do. They were not even allowed to live in the neighborhood where I live now. Sometimes my friends and I talk about it. She's white and I'm black. If we were to travel back to the 1960s, we wouldn't be able to be friends. My grandpa changed things. They ask, when did you learn that he played a huge role in the U.S. history? Yolanda says, I knew my grandpa was famous from the time I was little, but I didn't really think about how important he was to the world. I just thought of him as my grandpa. Now that I'm older, I understand more. I hear about the marches that he planned. I think, wow. They ask, are you following in your grandfather's footsteps? Yolanda says, in some ways I am. I am also making my own footsteps. I'm starting to give speeches at marches and other events. Last year, I spoke at a big march about stopping gun violence. That's an issue I care a lot about. I also want to help the homeless and protect the environment. They ask, can kids help make big changes? Yolanda says, a lot of people say kids, you don't need to worry about this stuff yet. But I think kids can definitely make a difference. They can share their dreams with the world and help make their dreams happen.